Hello, Daniel Gavin's my name from Gavin Property Group. I'm the Managing Director and Chief Auctioneer. Today I'd like to talk to you as a seller, what to expect on auction day, and answer some of the commonly asked questions. A reserve price is the written instruction at the minimum price that you're prepared to sell the property for. What it is not is an overinflated wish price. It is a realistic price which, if it reaches that or beyond, the property will be sold. As a seller, the reserve is your price. So that means whether it's prior to the auction or during the auction, you can amend that reserve price. But it's not recommended. Quite often to amend the reserve price means stopping the auction, which quite often can eliminate the momentum that a good auction will carry. So what I would say is set a realistic price, stick to that price, and hopefully the market moves well and truly beyond there. As the seller, you have the opportunity to put one bid in during the auction process itself. Typically this is left to the auctioneer unless you give them specific instructions otherwise. When making the bid, it must be clearly announced that that is a seller bid. Why do we make a seller bid? Sometimes at an auction, no matter how many registered buyers you have, no one wants to start the auction. So it's important to use the seller bid either to kickstart the auction and get the momentum going, or to potentially get us into the business end of where we need to be to allow the buyers to then take the auction forward.
Calling for an opening bid now, ladies and gentlemen, in your hands. One at a time, please. I know there's plenty of people want to buy it, and everyone's a little bit on the shy side to start it off. I've got my instructions, then I'll start it off if someone else doesn't. Take control if you like. A last opportunity, I'll call a seller bid at $1.2 million, then at 1.2 we're away. And at 1.2, I'm looking for 50 on $1.2 million now.
As the seller, it can be a bit of an emotional event. So ultimately it's up to you whether you decide to stay inside or outside during an on-site auction. Most owners prefer to stay inside where they can hear the auction but not be visible to the broader crowd.
Bids right in front of me, 10 if you like. Yep, 20. 20 at the back. At 60 now, $10,000 going to keep you in. 5's going to keep you in if you like. At 20 will keep you in. I won't take 10s yet, I'm sorry.
The increments, or the amount that the bids will increase by during the auction, will be very much dependent on the auction itself and the auctioneer. Typically they will start in larger denominators in the early stage of the auction, and as the auction starts to slow down, they may reduce down into smaller amounts. This is to ensure that the bidding keeps moving forward and maximises the sale price. For a buyer to bid at auction, they must be registered to bid, which means providing an Australian approved form of identification, registering to bid on the day. They will be supplied with a registration card, which then allows them to bid during the auction. Every time a bidder makes a bid, they must hold their registration card up so that we can clearly see that they are registered. The price at which an auction starts really doesn't matter. Typically you tend to find that if the auction starts substantially low, the denominators will be very large amounts, which will then mean we'll reach the target range a lot faster. If it starts too close to the reserve, that can equally be a bad thing in that you really won't get the momentum which an effective auction needs. If the highest bid does not meet your reserve price, you'll have one of two options. The highest bid may then be referred to you for your instruction, in which case there may be a little bit of negotiation. If a price is agreed upon, the property will still be put back on the market via auction, called 3 calls, and the property will be sold under the hammer on that basis. If not, the property will be passed in, and if the property is exchanged any time up until midnight the same day as the auction, it will be sold under auction terms with an unconditional basis, which means there will be no cooling off period. When purchasing a property at auction, a purchaser may look to have amendments made to the contract to sale. No different from whether they're purchasing a property under private treaty conditions, but what you need to do is have those amendments made in advance of the auction. So for example, if a buyer is wanting to have a 5% deposit instead of a 10% deposit, it needs to be legally approved, which means having it referred to the vendor's solicitor or conveyancer for their approval in anticipation of the auction.